Let us talk about men and depression. And I will start with scary statistics. If you look at it now, we are told that 1 in every 8 men will experience depression at work. 60% of men are dissatisfied with their work. 75% of men that try to commit suicide will always end up finishing it. And men, in most cases, have higher preferences of committing suicide because of stress at work. Now, we're going to have to look at this, and we have to realize that 2 factors are responsible for majority of men's depression. There are 2 things that get us men 40 plus to get depressed. Number 1 is women, which is relationships. And number 2 is finance, which is very much associated with work. The kind of career that you choose will determine the quality of life that you live. Because you're going to spend 3/4 of your life working. So if it is something that you're doing just for the paycheck, chances that you're going to be a happy chappy are very minimal. And this brings us to, we have to look at this topic where we're talking about employment versus deployment. If you look at the Gallup study that was done, majority of men are unhappy with their work. Majority of men are unsatisfied with their work. Majority of men find no meaning in their work. 85% of men struggle when it comes to finance. 50% of men that are getting married will end up in divorce. And 85% of working men are overweight. What this simply tells us is the kind of life that we're living now is not working. Whatever it is, the system, the blueprint that we're using to live our life does not, because it means our finances are in ruin, our relationships have failed, our happiness index is low, and our health has never been this worse. The average man now is a shadow of his father. We're not the men that our fathers used to be. And this can be proven by biology and science, which shows that we have less testosterone than what our fathers had. But let us focus on the biggest, the white elephant in the room here. And the white elephant in the room here is employment. Most of us go to school. If we look at our culture, we are taught that you go to school as a young person, you get praised for any external achievements that you get involved in. The minute you eat, the minute you smile, the minute you take your first step, the minute you can run, straight away people are there cheering you and telling you how great you are. And then when you start going to school, you start playing sports, you start getting good grades, the accolade keeps on accumulating. And of course, when you get good grades, a big party is thrown for you. When you go and you become a sports person and you're the best goal scorer, you're the best basketball player, you're the best runner, the accolade goes on. And then the motion here, the movement forward here, we're consistently told that go to school, study hard, get good grades, get a good job, get a wife, get kids, and retire. Now you can see all these things, our happiness here is very much in relationship, external things that we perform. Our external achievement in the world straight away make it easy for us to become happy. Our achievement here, our achievement is very much attached to what we've done rather than what's inside us. And this brings us Most of us go to school with one sole intention: to get employed. Let us look at the differences between employment and deployment. Okay? Now, the first one here, employment is 9 to 5. That is the definition of employment. Employment, you get paid a salary. Employment is determined by your skill set, what you get from school. Your employment here, there's always a boss. Your employment, you work up to 55 and you retire. Your employment, in most cases, if you look at it, it will always be you depending on somebody else's grace for your future. This is individual grace. Now, if you look at all these things, the external based, when you work within a certain hour, then you get paid a certain amount of money. Now, what do you do outside the working hours? Now, let's look at deployment. Now, if you are employed, remember, if you are employed, at some point you're going to be unemployed. At some point, somebody is going to take that employment away. At some point, somebody has to decide how much you're worth. As an employed person, it is your boss that determines how much you're worth. As you're like your boss here, it is your boss or the system that determines when you retire. Now, think of it. As we get older, our brains get sharper and our bodies get weaker. And that's why it's important for you to take care of yourself in terms of eating right and exercise. I'm at the best my brain has ever been, but if I don't take care of my body, then automatically somebody tells me I have to retire at 55. I'm 56 now. So if you tell me to retire at 55, it means I should have retired last year. What am I going to do for the entire rest of my life? I'm at the height of my life. I've never felt this good. I've never been sharper in my mind. So for somebody to tell me that I'm not worth, because when they tell you to retire, in simple terms, what your brain associates with is it means that you are of no value, that society doesn't need you at all. And your brain interpretation, if it's that, then it means you are ready to die. If you look at majority of men, statistically, they always die the first 2-3 years after retirement. Now, let's come to deployment. The difference between employment and deployment, if you are deployed, when you join the military, when you join the army, when you join the police, when you join the Navy, when you join the Peace Corps, if you join the diplomatic corps, what it simply means here is that you've been deployed. Why does a policeman or somebody in the military, when they sign the contract, what does it really say? What they mean there is they are signing that they are ready for death. You are signing for death. So when you are deployed, the first thing you are on here is it means you're on a mission. A missionary does not come back until the mission has been accomplished. When you're employed, you have a job. And the job only needs you between 9 and 5 p.m. But when you are employed, when you are deployed, you're on a mission. If you're on a mission, this is work. And you can never stop working until the work is finished. And that's where the big difference between us and men. The other thing for deployment here, you need gifts. The Bible clearly says that your gifts and not your education, which is your skill set, your gifts will bring you in the presence of kings. It doesn't really say anything about your schooling. It doesn't say anything about your certificates. The people that we know now in the world, very few of them do we know how well educated they are. What is the education? What are the education qualifications of Tiger Woods? What are the qualifications of Michael Jordan? What are the qualifications of Lucas Hadebe? What are the qualifications of Beyonce? All these people. These are people that have made sure that they've invested in their gift. Now, all of us have a gift. We don't have all the gifts, but each of us has a gift. Now, we need to make sure that we start doing this. Now, let's look at this from a man's point of view. When you are deployed and you are on a mission and you are working using the gifts that God has put in you, there are specific things that come into play. Number one, it's unique. There's so many different kinds of fish in the ocean, but you never see a whale say, I'm better than a shark. But they still do the same thing. They look different, but when we look at them, we see them swimming, but they do totally different things underwater. It increases your passion because you're doing what you are born to do. It makes it easier for you to use whatever talent that you've been given, which is your gifts, for you to serve the people and the community that you're in. Now, the minute you become somebody that serves others, that becomes purpose. Jesus clearly said that he that serves most among us is the greatest. Now, we live in a society where we like other people serving us. We live in a society where we like being bosses. We live in a society where the more people do for us, the bigger we think that we are. But the truth of the matter is your soul cannot grow until you serve somebody else. You have to be in a position to do something for someone else. That's when your soul becomes happy. That leads to higher satisfaction, and it automatically leads to better mental health. Now, how do we change? Majority of you will say, so what do you mean? So if I'm employed, does it mean that I'll never be happy? I didn't say that, but there is a solution. You can still find a mission. You can still be deployed in an employment job. Employment is not wrong. It's the attitude we take into work and our understanding of what we're doing that makes a big difference. Let us go into the book of Genesis. We find that God is constantly working. It doesn't say God wasn't on a job. God has the power and the capability to create the world in one day, but he stretched this for 6 days. There is a lot of lessons that we need to work there. God was working, and the most important thing that we find God doing in these instances, he was making laws. He was creating principles. He was putting things in place that he didn't have to go back and do it. And the easiest way you look at it, creation was done only once. He created heavens and earth only once. He created man only once. And then inside whatever he created, he put in laws to make sure that the creation continues. Now, that is not a job. That is working. That is the power of multiplicity. That is the power of continuity. That is the power of making sure that whatever that you do, whatever you work on, outlives you. We don't have to, when we go out there and plant a seed, we don't have to pray to God that it grows. Because God has put laws into the seed to make sure that the seed does what it's supposed to do if we put it in the right environment. If a farmer takes the seed, opens the ground, buries it, pours water, gives it nutrients, gets sunlight, keeps the weeds away, all he has to do is be patient, because the truth is the seed will germinate. And it's the same thing that we need to do when it comes to us. So how do you change your job from being employed to being deployed? Or in simple terms for the understanding here, how do you change from a job to work? How do you turn what you're doing into work? Number one here is goal setting. Most of us will always go into the grocery store with a grocery list. Most of us will always plan for our next holiday. Majority of people take more time planning their wedding day than planning the days after being married. One day you spend so much money and so much time, but you don't plan after that. And this is exactly how most of us as men live our lives. We do not have clear, achievable goals aligned with a purpose. Because it doesn't matter if you can be a street toilet cleaner. You can be a cook. You can be a maid. You can be a gardener. You can be, but as long as you align whatever you're doing with your purpose in life, you have to find your purpose. Your purpose is already there. Your job is simply to discover it. Why we in this life is because of three things. First, we need to discover what our purpose is. We need to develop our purpose, and then we need to deploy it. We need to discover, we need to develop it, and then we need to deploy it into everything that we do. So we need to be able to set goals. Most of us have no goals at all. Where are you going? Where are you now? Where are you going? What are you good at? What are your skills good for wherever you're going? Number two here, we need to network. Ask any man 40 plus to name you 5 of his best friends. Most men have none. They tell you, oh, my wife or my kid, the people I work with. You have to have a band of brothers. The unfortunate thing is that most of us men, 40 plus, 50 plus, when you die, it's easy to find 6 pallbearers, 6 men that will carry your casket. But it's impossible for you to find 6 men while you're alive that you can talk to about your problems. Most of us are lonely. And because most men, we've been told, we're afraid of sharing our problems, and we're afraid of appearing weak among our peers. We get depressed because we end up being the lone wolf. So we need to build a community of connections, people we can engage with, people that we can share things with, people that will, like-minded individuals. We need to have mentors. It's important for you to have mentors. Number 3 here, you have to have a purpose project. Every single day you're writing your legacy, intentionally or unintentionally. Everybody you meet, everybody you look at, everything you say, whatever you put in your mouth, whatever you work on, it is your legacy. But the unfortunate thing is most of us are very unintentional when it comes to our legacy. And by being unintentional, because we're not intentional in writing our legacy, unfortunately, by default, we're writing the wrong legacy. When you listen to this video, I'm determining how you're going to think of me after you've listened to me. This is very much in my power to do that. It's the same thing when it comes to you in every single thing that you do in life. When it comes to a purpose project, you have to be involved in projects that are in alignment with the courses are in alignment with your purpose in life. You have to volunteer, learn to volunteer, start a side hustle, pursue a passion project. You can't just be working from 9 to 5. This is something that you have to do after 9 to 5. What do? You have to do something that rewards your soul, something that makes your soul sing. Number 4 here is mindfulness. Number 4 is mindfulness and reflection. You have to practice mindfulness so that you get connected to your purpose. You can't write your purpose down and then you check it only once a year, because life is busy and life is fighting for our focus on a day-to-day basis. Your focus is the most important asset in your arsenal, and everybody from Facebook to Twitter, from TV programs, they are fighting for your focus, because where your focus goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, your life flows. Don't let other people steal your life force from you and then use it against what your purpose is. You regularly have to do self-reflection. And I always call this, the easiest way I do this for myself here is, I always have a board meeting with myself. Every single time, wherever it is I am, my board meeting, I ask myself, what am I thinking at this point? What am I listening to? What are my eyes looking at? What am I breathing in? What are the words that are coming out of my mouth? What am I putting into my mouth? What am I doing with my hands? Where are my feet taking me? The minute you do that, you become very aware of where you were and the things that you do. You've seen people driving on the wrong side of the highway. That's how mindfulness comes in. These are people that are so much out of their mind, they have no idea where they are. Number 5 here, you have to raise your own personal standards. You have to refuse that the only personal standard for your life is excellence. And when it comes to excellence here, with a capital E, my definition of excellence is absence of contradiction. How you do one thing is how you do everything. You have to set a certain standard. You have to have a foundation. You have to say, nothing that I do, nothing that I say, the way I look, how much money I have, how I treat my wife, how I treat my husband, how I treat my kids, how I treat my colleagues, this is the lowest. If I go beyond this, then I know I've lost myself. You have to have a foundation by not selling. You have to have a high standard. So constantly, you have to keep on chasing yourself. You have to constantly keep on wanting to be better than yourself. As a man, I believe there are 3 things you have to have. Number 1, there has to be somebody that you constantly have to keep on looking up to. Somebody that you want to become. And for me, that person is God. It's somebody that constantly, if you didn't have a father, if you don't have a male role model in your life, God is your role model that has got everything that you need. And the easiest personification of God for you to emulate is Jesus himself. This is a man that will never be like him, but we all want to try to be like him. The second thing is you have to have somebody you can always go back to. And that's why marriage is the best thing that a man can do. Marriage is the best thing, but marrying the wrong woman is the worst thing that you can do. If you are married to the wrong woman, I can tell you, you're completely finished, because it will kill you. But if you marry the right woman, if you're in love with the right woman, nothing propels a man to his best self than a woman, because a woman is a prophet that God has put in your life. Because as a man, our goals are so big and life is tough. In most cases, we give up. A woman never forgets what you promised her. A woman never forgets your greatness. She will constantly tell you, this is the promise that you made to me 15 years ago. You haven't fulfilled it. And as men, we get annoyed. But a woman is the best prophet, the first prophet that God has put at your feet to propel us to greatness. And the third thing that you need somebody you can always run after. That person for me is always 10 years ahead. I'm running after me 10 years from now. How will I be when I'm 66 years old? I have a picture of that person. I have a picture of that person looks physically, how that person looks like from a health perspective, how that person looks from an emotional point of view, spiritual point of view, relational. What kind of a wife does he have? What kind of relationship does he have with his kids? What kind of a business does he have? What kind of impact does he have on the community? How does he want the young people to look up to him? So that is the person that I'm constantly chasing. I will never catch that person, because that person will always be 10 years ahead of me. And by doing that, automatically, it forces you to live a life of excellence. So in conclusion here, what I need to do is, I need you to discover, I need you to develop, and then I need you to deploy your unique purpose into this world. We all have potential. It brings me to the parable, when we talk about the parable of the talent. When we had a very rich man that had 3 servants, and he gave each servant according to their ability. The first servant, he gave them, for the lack of better word, 3 million. The second servant, he gave him 2 million. And the third servant, he gave him 1 million. When he went away for a long time and he came back, he asked them, show me what you did with the gift that I gave you. The first servant said, sir, I invested and I've increased it by 100%. Here is 6 million. Second one did the same thing. I've invested and I've increased your investment by 100%. Here is 4 million. He said, well done, my servant. Then he called the third one and asked him, what did you do with the investment I gave you? The third one said, I was so afraid of you, sir. You are a very mean man. But also I was afraid of losing it. I buried it. Here is 1 million. What did the master say? take this stupid man out of my sight. That's paraphrasing. They didn't use that word in the Bible. But take this stupid man out of my sight and take that 1 million and give it to these two. And that's exactly the question that we're going to be asked at the end of our stay on this earth. Work is how we pay for the gift of life that God has given us. Work is how we appreciate God. Life is a gift, but it is a gift that comes with a responsibility. It's not a free gift. It is a gift that also has a very limited shelf life. This body is not forever. The spirit lives forever, but this physical body at some point has to break. So God bless. Take care of yourself. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do the right thing and subscribe so that it can help with the algorithms, so that it can make it easier for me to create more educative videos for you. Make sure that you like it. Make sure that you share and press the bell button so that anytime I release new material, you are the first person to know. God bless you. Take care and catch you on the flip side.